In December 1963, Bobby Fischer did something truly incredible when he annihilated the entire field at the US Championship. So he went 11 out of 11, he didn't lose a single game, and this one here actually won him the Brilliancy Prize. So it was only 21 moves long and just perfection on the board here, a real masterpiece. So let's see what happened, and we also have some annotations here by Bobby himself and others, really insightful to get his thoughts on this game. So white kicked off with pawn d4 here, Bobby went knight f6, pawn c4, g6, is he going to play a King's Indian, Grunfeld? He did play both. We had g3 now from white, and now Fischer goes for pawn to c6, and he's setting up this kind of neo-Grunfeld structure, so he supports the d5 break rather than just play it in one. So white goes bishop to g2, pawn d5, and now you can do something like queen b3 here. Bobby said he felt that that held more tension, but white just takes on d5, the pawn recaptures, and out of the opening here, we'll see how things get very, very symmetrical. It's kind of boring, kind of drawish, but Bobby mixes it up very, very soon. So pawn to e3 now is played. It's kind of an ugly move when you block in the bishop like that. Now white's going to go b3, get it out like this, but already white's not playing for much here. Probably wanted to draw with the way Fischer had this reputation. So now we had castles from Fischer, knight g to e2, knight c6, castles, and now b6 from Bobby. Very logical. He wants to bring that bishop onto a6, and white does similar, also looking to develop there. Now we had bishop to a6, bishop a3, and now rook e8 from Bobby, and here he starts to set up aggressive ideas. So he's looking to actually play pawn e5, break in the center if possible, and white now goes queen to d2, preparing to bring a rook to the d file, so that if you push e5, which Bobby duly does, well then you can get some pressure on this pawn. And Bobby did say that he was a bit worried about how this might leave his pawn structure, but he felt that the piece activity he gets in compensation here would be more than enough for that. So the pawn was captured, the knight took back, and now here white goes wrong, goes with the wrong rook here. So you want to bring a rook to the d file, but white goes with the f rook. You should go with this one. Still black keeps advantage here with the pieces being so active, but you wouldn't get what we saw in the game. After this rook came to the d file, now there's problems on this pawn. So the knight hopped into d3. What an octopus on that square. And now there's a threat here to also go knight e4, attack the queen. So it nudged over to c2 here. There's also now a threat to take the knight. But what did Bobby play in this position? Well, you've maybe guessed it by now, an absolute brilliancy here. He crashed through on f2. So he's giving up an entire knight, the king recaptured, but in compensation, he now checks from g4, the king goes and he takes on e3. Now all his pieces are opened up and playing, but what's the follow-up here? People were actually quite confused when they were watching this game. There were two grandmasters commentating, for example, and after white moves the queen here, coming back to d2, Bobby just takes on g2 here. Well, what's actually going on after the king recaptures? He's giving a piece for two pawns here. How can this be any good? Well, now he reveals his beautiful point. Do you want to pause here and look for the move? This is the really deepness of the combination now. So he plays here, pawn to d4. Just a stunning idea to clear this long diagonal by giving a pawn. So white has to take that one really. There's not a lot else to actually play. So the knight took on d4 here. And now the check from b7 came. And here it was noted, the king is at black's mercy. That's what Fischer said at this point. And it really is a beautiful combination of pieces now. The bishop's cutting across, the rook down here. Now, the king stepped back to f1 here. If we look at some of the other options, say you block this check like this, well, then you can actually chop the queen off here. The rook recaptures, you pick up on c3, and this is actually just overwhelming material loss. Black's completely winning here, an exchange up, game is gone. So you can't actually block with the knight on f3. What else in this position here? Say you tried king to g1. Well, now you can take on d4. Here's the other problem. You bring the queen away, and now can you see the tactic in this position? It's quite a common idea. So you go rook to e1 check. You distract the defender of the queen, so that after that one's captured, then you take here. And if instead of capturing that rook, you step up the king here, well, now you can take on d4, the rook recaptures, and now this one's left on prees in the corner. It's just brilliant how these tactics just marry together in this position. So you can't block with the knight on f3, you can't go king g1. If you try king h3, this is especially awful. After queen to d7 check, this is just a massive king hunt. Whether you go king h4, pawn g4, essentially the king just gets boxed in very, very fast. So stepping up the board is just suicide. So king f1 was played, and now Bobby just plays the very calm move, and it actually forced resignation in this position. So he goes queen to d7 here, threatening to come in here, deliver checks, and White actually just pondered on the position, realised there was nothing, and gave up the game. And Fischer was actually saying here he wanted queen to f2 so that he could then check from here, say king g1, and now you can play this beautiful winning move, rook to e1 check. You can't go with the queen, this is checkmate, and if you take with the rook, well then this is the follow-up, bishop takes on d4, and again the white pieces are just completely overloaded. If the queen captures here, then again we mate on g2. So a stunning game from Bobby. If you want to see another immortal game, click here. Thanks for watching, see you soon.